Once there lived a brave king who had fought many battles and won, but unfortunately, in his last battle, he was badly wounded. King was saved, but in that battle, he lost his one eye and one leg. The king was very intelligent and kind. Everyone in his kingdom lived a happy and a healthy life because of him. One day, the king was walking through his palace hallway and saw the portraits of his ancestors. The portrait of all his ancestors were very beautiful. Their valor and beauty were reflected in those portraits. He thought that one day his children will walk in the same hallway and remember all the ancestors through these portraits. But the king did not have his portrait painted. Due to his physical disabilities, he was not sure how his painting would turn out to be. So, he invited many famous painters from his kingdom to the court. The king then announced that he wants a beautiful portrait made for himself to be placed in the palace. Any painter who can carry out this should come forward. He will be rewarded based on how the painting turns out. All of the people and other painters were curious and nervous, thinking that how can any painter make the king's portrait beautiful because the king is physically disabled. What if the king did not like the painting and gets angry? In such a situation, he can even give them the death penalty. That's why no painter dared to come forward. The king and all the ministers were waiting for any painter to accept this proposal. There was silence in the court for some time. After all, a painter came forward and said, "My lord, I will make your portrait." Everyone looked at the painter eagerly. Everyone felt that this poor painter would be killed in vain. The painter asked the king for a week's time to make the portrait. The king gladly agreed. After a week, finally the day had come when the painter had to bring the portrait of the king. The whole court was crowded with people. Everyone was curious to see how the painter would make a beautiful painting of a king who does not have one eye and one leg. But when the painter presented the portrait, everyone in the court, including the king, was left stunned. The painter made a portrait in which the king was sitting on the horse on one leg side, holding his bow and aiming the arrow with his one eye closed. It was a wonderful portrait. The king was very pleased to see that the painter has made a beautiful portrait by cleverly hiding the king's disabilities. The king honored him in the whole assembly and gave him a lot of rewards. If we see in our lives, we will find that we often look at the shortcomings of others, but we forget that every person has some merits and demerits. If we see only the shortcomings in others, then our attitude of thinking will become negative. In such a situation, we will find only negativity in every situation. That's why we should always look for the good qualities of others and ignore their deficiencies. We should learn to focus on the qualities of others instead of their weaknesses. If we think and approach positively, even in a negative situation, then our thinking will become optimistic and we shall be able to solve our problems more efficiently.